ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ Suprabhatam everyone. Without further ado, let's get straight into the class. Srini Mahodaya is here. Mahodaya, please take over.
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. So, last time we talked about Sankhya, the introduction to Sankhya, and went through the evolution, basically from the Sankhya point of view. So, again, just to recap, so we saw the difference between Purusha and Prakriti, and the Mula Prakriti, the Mahat, the Buddhi, the Ahankara, and how the Prakriti is made up of. Mentioned that how Prakriti is made up of three gunas, and then the resulting manas, the five sense organs, five organs of action, tanmatras, and mahabhutas. So we stress more on the ahankara, the buddhi, ahankara, and the tanmatras. So when you go through Sankhya versus any other philosophy, what you're going to notice is Sankhya is, I was trying to relate to the experience that we have. And the experience is everyone can see, it's deeply personal. More importantly, we need to recognize that Sankhya is about psychological existence or psychological ontology, whereas any other philosophy is more about the experienced, not the experiencer. So Sankhya is deeply into this thing. So therefore, everything that you're going to see in Sankhya is more of a process and more of a psychological entity. So it exists. You can touch it, feel it. You can feel it, but really, it's not like solid objects. Not like Vaisheshika, not like Nyaya. Where you sort of, or maybe the Western philosophy or physical sciences and all that. You sort of touch and feel things are solid, liquid, gas, and you see all of that. But when it comes to Sankhya, it's so subtle, right? And we talked about tanmatras and how we experience and how, from an experiential point of view, we sense sound, touch, form, taste, smell, and all of that. Now, the most exciting topic of Sankhya is Trigunas. And why it is exciting is the ability to classify the world and the universe, the cosmology, in terms of these three gunas is amazing. Nobody had shown it to the level Bhagavad Gita shows it, and especially Sri Krishna, how he talks about it. So I just wanted to go to that shloka where he introduces that in the 14th chapter. You see this thing? Let me see how he introduces. Right? The first shloka. 14th chapter, verse 1. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Param bhuyaha pravakshyami jnananam jnanamuttamam yat jnatva munaya sarve param siddhimito gataha. I will be talking about pravakshyami. I'll tell you completely about jnananam jnanamuttamam, the most superior of all knowledge. Yat jnatva, by knowing which even the munis, right? Even the rishis, sarve parang param siddhimito gataha. Itaha, from here, siddhingataha. They attained what? They attained the siddhi, the perfection, right? I shall once again explain to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, by knowing which all the great saints attain the highest perfection. So it's coming straight from Krishna himself. So that's why we got to know what are these three gunas. Idam jnanam upashritya mama sadharmyam agataha. Sarge api na upajayante pralaye na vyatanti te. Vyatanti cha. Idam jnanam upashritya. Those who actually depend on this wisdom, on this jnana, will be sadharmyam agataha. They come to me or they unite with me. Sarge api na upajayante. They will not be reborn, right? At the time of creation, sarga, srishti, it's all shastric terms. At the time of creation, nor destroyed. Pralaye api na vyatanti. At the time of dissolution, they are not destroyed. It is that kind of a knowledge. Right? And then he introduces here. Sattam rajastamairi gunaha prakriti sambhavaha nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. So sattva, rajas, and tamas, these are the three gunas of prakriti, right? Or they translated that as material energy. Well, some nuances are there, but I don't want to keep using these kind of English words, but that's okay. So Prakriti has three gunas: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And these gunas bind the eternal Jivatma to the perishable body. Shariram. Shariram means Shiryateti Shariram, that which gets destroyed. All right. And this eternal Jivatma or eternal Atma, whichever way you take it, that is a Purusha. So from the Sankhya point of view, we have Purusha and the Prakriti. So what is going on here? Right? Let's go to the best way to understand this is through an analogy. So I find it whenever I explain it, I go for this one. So imagine the Purusha is like a person looking at the mirror, and this mirror has three kinds of tints, right? One is the sattva tint, the guna. It's a clear mirror, right? Clear. You can see your face, and it reflects you very well. It helps you to know how you look, right? And then there is another tint. It's a rajasic tint. It's actually shaking mirror, right? It keeps distorting. Maybe there is something moving around, right? So you see, it's a vibrating image. You just can't know. It's somewhat distorted, right? You don't know who you are or how you look. It keeps moving. And then there is tamasic mirror, which is like dark. It's covered in dust. Right? That you can't even see. You know that there is some image, but you don't know how you look. You don't want that mirror. And analogy is mirror is like the Prakriti. The person looking at the mirror is the Purusha. Right? So Prakriti is used for reflection so that Purusha can attain Kaivalya or the freedom. So this is the essence of Sankhya. So what does Bhagavad Gita talk about? So he says that the nature of Sattva, Krishna says, the nature of Sattva is that Uttamam Sattvam Prakashakam Anamayam. Sattva is pure, luminous, and free from any disease. See, so I gave you an analogy, but all these three gunas are of the gunas of the mind, right? So they can be in varying degrees. Everybody has these three gunas, but they are in varying degrees. So what is sattva? He says, Uttamam sattvam prakashakam manamayam. And he says, what is the effect of sattva? Sukha sangena badhnati jnana sangena cha anaga. It also binds you by attachment to happiness and knowledge, right? Through sattva, you gain knowledge, like a reflecting mirror. You know who you are. It helps you, but you're not going to be standing there throughout. Right? You move around, and you suddenly don't know how you look like. You come back and you see again. So it's like that. It binds by attachment to happiness and knowledge. Rajas. What is that? The nature of rajas is rajo ragatmakam vidhi trishna sanga samudbhavam. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi is know it, janatu. Rajaha, rajaha, this rajas, right? Know that it is actually passion born. Its nature is to crave and attach. Right? It will also attach. It's all about craving, desires. And the effect of rajas is badnati karma sangena dehinam. Sattva is clarity, and sattva is pure. It is luminous. But rajas is all action, desires and action. It binds through attachment to action. What does it bind? It binds the Purusha to action. It binds you. And the ego is bound, basically. The moment the Purusha in contact with Prakriti, we talked about it, right? It is Ahankara at that point, which is purely Prakriti. And then Tamas. Nature of Tamas is Tamaha. Tamastu ajnanajam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam. Tamaha ajnanajam. Tamas is born of ignorance. Mohanam sarvadehinam. It deludes everyone. Right? What's the effect? Pramada alasya nidrabihi badnati binds. How does it bind? It binds through heedlessness. Pramada, like you go smart. It's crazy, right? It's delusion. Laziness, alasyam, laziness, and nidrabihi, sleep. So this is all because of tamas. So it exists in Prakriti, right? Whether you want it or not. But look at the power of the classification. So how do we compare this? Tamas applying to mind. A tamasic mind is a dull mind, right? And on the left-hand side, you see the tamas. On the rightmost side, you see rajas. This is what we see in the world. Okay? Most of 99% of the times. Tamas is a dull mind, whereas rajas is an extroverted mind. What does it mean? It's like a covered mirror, right? It's a dusty mirror. It hides awareness. And rajas is also a very distorted mirror or somewhat of a broken mirror, right? So it hides awareness. The image of the Purusha is still distorted. A tamasic mind is dull, sluggish, and prone to depression. Right? And you can't even see, oh, you want to go for a makeup and then probably it's your wedding day and your mirror is all dusty. What's your mental quality? You don't even know how you look like. So it is leading to depression. And rajas is anger, anxiety, frustration, aggression, boredom. They're all common. The distorted mirror, what happens? It's frustration. You don't know who you are. People are saying you're this way, that way, but mirror is showing this way. You still don't know. Fear interprets experience in case of tamas. So they're all very, 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 fear is associated with it. And it is predominantly fear that is experiencing everything. So high levels of anxiety. Rajas, desire interprets experience. Everything is seen through what I want. The upside of tamas is that it allows one to rest. You need to have all three gunas, and these gunas are actually helpful also. If you want to sleep, that is when the tamas is more, then it puts the body to rest. Similarly, when rajas is at a certain level, it's a great motivator to accomplish great things in the world. And does it hinder self inquiry? Does it show you who you are? A dusty mirror? No. Hides self inquiry. And rajas, that also hinders self inquiry, hinders. But what is sattva? Sattva is about first calming the mind. Right? It's a calm mind. And sattva, when it is predominant, the mind is calm. So that's what it means. And it's like a clear mirror. It reveals who you are, or reveals your original shape and form, or at least to an effect where you start knowing who you are. Mind is present, wise, happy, and free of desire. So no matter, once there is a clear mirror and then you looked at your reflection, you know how you look like, right? No matter what happens, when it is distorted, when it is dusty and all that. And here, at this level of sattvic mind, truth interprets experience, and it allows proper discrimination, or what we call viveka. This is the one that facilitates self inquiry. When tamas and rajas are balanced, you are at the level of sattvic mind. But all these three qualities are binding. How is it binding? I mean, if we were to explain, there is sattvic ego, sattvic ahankara, rajasic ego, and also tamasic ego. So that is how egos can be classified. So how do the gunas dominate you? When sattva dominates, Krishna says, Sarvadvareshu dehe asmin prakasha upajayate. When all the gates of the body are lit with knowledge, sattva is predominant. So, why do they do yoga? Why do they do meditation and all of that? That is to increase the sattvic quality. Right? When rajas dominates, lobha, pravrittihi, arambha, karmanam, ashamaha, spruha. When rajas dominates, like a monkey, right? Greed, restlessness, desire, all these arise when rajas dominates. When tamas dominates, ajnanam, tamaso. There is, he goes on to say a lot and lot more about tamas, all these qualities. But the 14th chapter is the one that you should be looking at. It's about darkness, ignorance, delusion, and how tamas prevails. So he starts talking about it, goes into great depths. So what's the result of each guna? Sattvad bhavati jnanam. Right? Like a true clear mirror, sattva arises knowledge of oneself. And results of tamas, rajaha tu aphalani dukkham. It doesn't yield any result actually. No great result. From rajas, pure rajas, it's all suffering and restlessness. And the results of tamas, tamasaha phalam ajnanam. From pure tamas, only ignorance is the phala, the result. So Krishna says, Gunan etan atitya, Gunan etan atitya trin dehi deha samudbhavan. When the embodied being or the Purusha stuck in that Prakriti, when he rises above the three gunas, when the person knows that he is not the reflection seen in the sattvic mirror or the rajasic mirror or the tamasic mirror, he is above everything. Look at this picture. Purusha is far bigger and better and looks very different from the Sattvic mirror, Rajasic mirror, and Tamasic mirror. But the closest to what he is, what is helping him know, is the Sattvic mirror, the clear mirror. Okay. Gunan etan atitya Treen, Treen Gunan Atitya, Dehi, one who wears this body, Dehi, Deha Samudbhavan. He has to raise all these three gunas are of the Prakriti, are of this body, are of this mind. Right? So when he rises above that, he would know who he is. The liberated version is the one who transcends these three gunas. He does not hate the rise of Rajas or Tamas. He simply knows that these are all Prakriti. These are all part of the Prakriti. No clinging to Sattva, no clinging to Rajas or Tamas. Is calm, steady, and in both pleasure and pain. In the beginning chapters, he talks about you have to rise above Raga and Dvesha to be a Sthitadhir Muni. Yeah. And so he's talking about you should not have any aversion or you should not have any craving, right? So you got to rise above that thing. And Arjuna has questioned a lot. It's going in a dialectical fashion, and then he's talking about how to do this. How do I achieve it? How does a Sthitadhir Muni speak? And what is this elevated consciousness? How does a liberated person, speak? And how does so all of these questions? Krishna is actually answering, and then he has answered using Sankhya, and he's talking about he is steady in pleasure and pain. He knows simply like the seasons. Matras parshasta kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkadaha. He says when shita ushna are like the seasons, like the cold and the warmth. They come and go. They come and go like that. The dukkha and the sukhas will come and go, but he will be steady. He is the same to mud, stone, and gold. He is not shaken by praise or blame. He's very steady. And I mean, it's like a Purusha he doesn't need the help of the mirror to know how he looks, right? Final attainment is Saha Guna Samati Iti Etan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. He who transcends the gunas attains Brahman. Right? So this is how this chapter concludes. And after describing all these gunas, anyone has a question?
Yes. So again, it may be a tangential thing, but the actions motivated by the Rajoguna and performed with a passion and probably with a high focus on the results of the action would also probably lead to karma phalas,
Binding.
which are binding, right? So again,
you're not tangential, perfectly in line.
That goes into the karma yoga, karma siddhanta theory. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great point, but you're just one step ahead. That's all. It's fine. Okay. And so Krishna talks about all of these things as the lakshanas. Okay. Lakshana meaning very in a descriptive way. Now he makes an application of it. He describes it and applies it. He says that the gunas are in Shraddha. I don't like to use the word faith, but there's lack of word. We're talking in English, but he's talking about Shraddha. Food, speech, and action everywhere. And you'll see the power of this classification using gunas. Amazing. It's simply universal. He applies to Shraddha and then talks about Sattvika Shraddha, Rajasika Shraddha, Tamasika Shraddha, Ahara. And then he's talking about, Sattva Rajas Tamas Aharas, Sattva Rajas Tamas Tapas, Sattva Rajas Tapas, Sattva Rajas Tamo Dana. All right. And he's talking about the kartavyas, the jnana and courage, resolve, all of that thing, how gunas can help. They're not, I mean, you'll see how they mix and match, but you'll see the applications throughout. These verses, they show gunas everywhere in food, thought, behavior, or destiny. Right? So, common correlation that you would see is in Ayurveda mostly. So, they talk about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So, if you're familiar, so what is this Vata, Pitta, Kapha? We'll, when we talk about yoga, or maybe sometime later, we get more into that thing. Vata actually means, hmm, let me back it up a little. Whole of Ayurveda is system science. What's a system? If you studied control systems engineering or any systems for that matter, ecology, environmental, whatever it is, systems is nothing but you have input, output, and then processing in the middle, right? You accept input, you process those inputs, and you produce a certain output. And the processing stages, what should it have? It should have movement, right? This movement is signified or denoted by vata. Vata is the concept of movement, right? Sometimes you just get the translation vata means wind. I mean, yes, but actually, what the principle of movement is signified by vata. Pitta, pitta, is all about action or conversion. I would say, not really action, but actually conversion. See, when input moves into the system, there is movement and there is um, conversion process. The input gets converted into a desired output through sankalpa or through intention, right? Well, the body also is a system, and everything is a system. The whole it's cosmic system, system of climate, system of ecology, everything. Everything works on these principles. But look at this thing. They looked at the body, and then they conceived the entire health and the body as a system. Okay, so input is the sankalpa, output is the karma phala, and the action or the action of movement, the principle of movement, they call it vata. The principle of conversion, they call it pitta. Okay, and then sort of came up with the symbol of agni because that is the converter all the time, right? Fire, it converts one type of matter into another. And kapha is storage. You look at computer system, you have these three things. You look at Ayurveda, you have all these things. Look at the rishis; they conceive this entire health, the body, the mind. They consider that as a system science. So, the origin of system science originated where? It originated here in Bharat. That's how they saw it. Okay, Tamas is all about structures, storage, and kapha is the principle of cohesion too. Right? So you see that vata, pitta, kapha, they are correlated but not one-to-one mapping. So you would see in the Shastras, vata is the principle of movement, and rajas is the principle of activity and passion. That's fire. It's very. You can't compare anything that kind of activity. But imbalance of the vata leads to fear, anxiety, restlessness. They're all rajasic qualities. You see that, and similarly, uh, pitta. It's transformation. It is for transformation and conversion or heat. It is called agni, jataragni, and all that, right? Pitta. If your pitta is low, then your digestion is not great. It is sometimes considered to have the mix of sattva, oh, pitta body, they're very sharp, it is said, and intelligence, it's because of the mix of sattva and the rajas, the ambition and the drive and all of that. But the imbalance, they're all called vata pitta dosha are called doshas, right? The imbalance of the pitta leads to anger, aggression, jealousy. They're all rajasic qualities. And then kapha, uh, it's all about structure and cohesion, and it's just inertia, heaviness. And earth is actually, it is considered tamas heavy, right? It's represented uh, by earth. An imbalanced kapha leads to laziness, possessiveness, and depression, which are all like sort of draws you down. But why are we talking about all these things? It's because these three gunas are used to explain even the concepts of Ayurveda. Right? So trigunas are in the realm of mind, vata, pitta, kapha are in the realm of body. But look at another thing here. Same trigunas are used to explain the behavior or the varna still. The widely accepted correlation is the dominant guna. What is the dominant guna of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra varnas? Right? Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. So he's talking about how the gunas operate in these three varnas. Guna and the karma, the occupation, is not janma, right? Janma is birth. What Krishna is talking about, Chaturvarnyam, all four varnas, Maya Srishtam, the classification, okay, is because of guna and karma. There is no word called janma. Right? So Brahmana, it is sattva predominance, where the main quality is all about acquisition and sharing of knowledge. When you share knowledge, it doesn't come down, it just grows, isn't it? So that's the beauty of this thing. So it's more on the intellectual side. So the qualities, the dominant guna is purity and goodness because of self control, austerity, purity, uprightness, shraddha, and those kind of things. And then kshatriya. You'd see that in any society there is intellectual class, there is administrative class. Naturally, they tend towards leadership roles. It's protection and administration. Kshatat trayate iti kshatriya. Brahma janati iti brahmana. One who is in the pursuit of knowing the Brahma, moving towards consciousness. Right? That is brahmana. Kshatriya kshatat trayate iti. One who protects, from apayas or from any kind of attack, internal or external. Right? Protection of the society, protection of other people. It could be intellectual or it could be physical. So administrative is more on the intellectual kshatriya, and warrior is more towards the physical fight, police or military. So it's about great action, passion, right? And it does. I mean, they all have mix of sattva and rajas, but you see, you need that rajas for that valor, the splendor, yeah, and the skill, and not running away from battle. This is straight from Bhagavad Gita, right? So they are of the quality of the leader, right? And the Vaishya, the merchant or the farmer, or one who operates on trader principle, they are contributing towards economic development and wealth creation. These classes exist everywhere, right? And what is the mix of rajas and tamas? That there is eagerness for acquisition. They want to accumulate things, vaishyas, and protection of cows. Bhagavad Gita is talking about protection of cows. The cows is a symbol of wealth, protection of wealth. You could take it that way. And trade, Wanijam or trader principle is what? Quid pro quo, something for something. So they don't want anything out of nothing. Like the tamasic people, they just go on a trader principle. They exchange goods of equal value, right? And the more value they give, the more accumulation happens. So they are vaishyas, and that is they do balance, but the rajas is more. And sattva is considered a little bit low because it is not towards any kind of a self-reflection or self-knowledge. It's more towards the worldly behavior. And then the Shudra, artisans, laborer, worker. It's all about skillful execution. Right? Shujadravati iti. It's all a person of compassion and service. And the Shuchaya Dravati. So this is a Shuchi, is that that Ardra Hrudayam, they say it. He's a compassionate person. He actually wants to help others too. But where is the what is the predominant quality? The predominant quality is uh, a sort of inertia. See, inertia not because you got to see it in relative sense. It is not about acquisition of wealth. It's not about ruling over or protecting people and giving up one's own life for the society. You don't have any of these things. You're working for salary. If you're working for salary, that is a Shudra, right? It doesn't matter. So characterized by service, a lack of intellectual drive. Here, the intellectual drive, the problem with the English word, sort of like, they're all very rigid, but you got to see it in relative terms. It's the intellectual drive to be in the pursuit of Brahman, or in the pursuit of Kshatra, or in the pursuit of becoming an entrepreneur or a businessman. You're working, you're comfortable. And if you're comfortable, and there is opportunity cost. So you're here for a salary. So you want someone else to take huge risks, right? You take less risks, and you're going for a salary. Therefore, that is Shudratva. So these three gunas have been used to classify the varnas too. And then food. So until here, any question so far? We can move forward. Okay. All right. So
Yes, Chief. Quick question. Sorry to interrupt. Um, there's a travel between the four sides, right?
I
People do travel between one to the other or elevate themselves back and forth.
see
It happens.
every person will have all these three gunas. Sometimes there are certain times of the day where the guna can be predominant. Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, I'm saying like Brahmana, Shudra. These four classifications, right?
Yeah.
Predominance. Yeah, it's hard to explain in English terms. I get it, and it's also like the percentage of allocation or the prioritization of each one of them. And then they, like, say if you're a farmer and then you become a tradesman, and then from a tradesman then you acquire more companies and like more things.
Mhm.
Then you come from one, but then you go to different aspects of traveling into
What I
one.
mean to say is, in the fourfold Purushartha, what is it called? Kama, kama at the base, artha on top of it, dharma, and then moksha, right? So kama artha prapancha is for everyone. There is some dharma called trade. There is some dharma called providing a service and getting salary. So that's a level of dharma. And then there is this dharma of providing equal value and creating more and more value for the society and acquisition of wealth. That is also dharma. And that is slightly, that is the Vaishya dharma. And then comes Kshatra dharma. That is giving up life for the society to protect all three classes, right? All three varnas. That is Kshatra. Kshatat trayate iti. He protects from all the wounds that can happen to the society, internal enemies or external enemies. You got to protect. So that protection, that security provider is the Kshatriya. And the Brahmana, Brahma janati iti, or one who is in the pursuit of realization or consciousness or whatever. So these, the intellectual, administrative, tradesmen, the businessmen, and then the service providers, They are there in every society. So when Bhagavad Gita is talking about it, it's Vaishviki, it's universal, and they use these three gunas to classify. Yeah. So we'll come to that predominance and how it works. You want to explain some knowledge of Nyaya actually helps there, how classifications are done. But this is in general. We are in the application realm currently, so we are just looking at various aspects of society and how gunas are used to classify. Okay, today is an application class, and we'll have a lot
Yeah,
more questions. Okay.
yeah. It's observation in terms of, like, back in India, there's a lot of people who have an IPS background, or somebody
Mm,
from, then they go into administration and
yeah.
politics.
Yes.
So I see that change.
Yes.
So I'm observing a lot of things, and then a lot of community associations and everybody else, like, trying to draw them into social discussions, which
Yes.
is not what they did for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Now it's a different dynamic. So I'm just seeing a trend. That's
Yes.
what I
Yeah.
want to, that's
Sure.
what I'm bringing up.
Yeah. Good observation. But it makes you very observant, especially the knowledge of the gunas and the applications. But you'll see it now. So how is it applied to food? So we said it promotes no sattva promotes clarity, serenity.
Pramodya,
Yeah.
Shamita. Subramani ji also has a
Oh,
question.
okay.
It
Please
looks
go
like.
ahead. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Please go ahead.
Yes, yes. Sorry, I was about to remove my hand,
Oh,
but yes, it's a very it's a totally different framework to look and observe things.
yes, totally.
So I have heard some mention like, and I think it's already answered in your slide. That if supposing someone is, say, heavily into tamas,
Mm,
right, then they need to indulge in habits that will increase rajas, to
yeah.
pull them out of tamas and bring them to a place where they can actually do action,
Mhm.
right. So are there any so is this in line with what you've been, because I've heard it, I have no way of finding any shastric evidence if that
Oh,
is
oh,
the case or not.
there is shastric evidence throughout. Yeah, and see, I mean, it gives you. Shastra is all about giving you those insights. Like it's all descriptive, as we said. It's not prescriptive. It doesn't tell you you do this, but it tells you the description, the lakshanas, and the conditions. And once you understand the sandarbha, the auchitya, and the lakshanas, you know how to apply. Because the forms, we are living in the world of Vyavahara. The forms, they keep on changing. The place and the time keep on changing. But the insights of the Shastras will help you figure out what's the right course of action. Yeah, they're not rigid do's and don'ts, not imperatives,
Yeah.
but descriptions. But you'll see the applications. These are all examples. It shows you many cases where they are applied, and then you start getting insights. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mani.
But see, we did not even know Sankhya is applied everywhere. It's so universal. Look at this thing. The qualities of a sattvic food, they're fresh, light, wholesome, and easy to digest. It's simple. Examples: fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, ghee, milk, honey, sprouts, fruit juices, so many things. I mean, there are many, many. The examples that you're seeing, they're all what fits the slide, but there's so many. And then what is rajasic? It's all about what promotes activity, the drive, right? And it can lead to any excess, it can lead to mental agitation, anger, and physical depletion. So how? They can be very bitter, sour, pungent, stimulating. For example, let's see one example. Anything chili, excessive spices. So why do people avoid it, or why we are asked to avoid it? Now, certain spices can be great stimulants, right? In a limited way, but anything excess, it excess of chilies, people get headaches, people get admitted to hospitals. But moderate amounts can actually be good. Strong tea or coffee, and that you can, if you drink coffee, at 20s probably you're fine, but when you reach 50s, 60s, 70s, tea, coffee, they can't allow you to sleep because you become so active. So they are considered rajasic food. A coffee or tea won't make you, it just increases your dopamine so high that you're constantly vigilant and awake, not in a great and a healthy way. Well, salt in excess can do that thing, and overly sour foods, pickles, fermented foods, chocolates, desserts, deep fried snacks. Are they all in very limited quantities? They're all okay, but anything excess of rajasic food can actually create an imbalance in the body, and that imbalance is called the dosha imbalance, and that is when anarogya or disease is a manifestation at that point. Tamasic food, it promotes lethargy, inertia, confusion, and even because of that spiritual growth. It's a dusty mirror again. Prakriti creates a dusty mirror for you when you eat this kind of food, which is stale, putrid, tasteless, reheating all the time. If it is lying there in the refrigerator for a month and you've been doing the same thing over and over again, there's no sattva. The prana is so low, and it's all gone, and it's all stale leftovers, frozen food, anything processed, processed meat, food, deep fried foods in excess. These onions and garlics, mushrooms, they're somewhat always dubious whether they are in tamasic or rajasic. Okay, I think it depends on the quantity. You do see many, depending on which Ayurveda expert you would ask, some people put onions in rajasic food category, and some do in tamasic category, and garlic and mushroom, because they all are not bad or anything. They are like medicinal. They are of medicinal value. Sometimes you do need them, including alcohol, right? In moderate and limited quantities, depending on the prakriti of the body, uh, people prescribe, especially when it comes to Ayurvedic doctors. So this is how food is classified. And look at another interesting thing. So this classification is not at all limited to just personality and food, not mind and food, but they're all fundamental blocks of Prakriti itself. Therefore, they can be applied universally about anything and everything in the manifested world of the Vyavahara, the world of Vyavahara, the Laukika world. Right. So we talked about psychological application, right? From the point of view of Sankhya and how Ayurveda uses Sankhya. So we talked about clarity and contentment, wisdom, all good things as sattva. Rajas is about that which is required: activity, ambition, restlessness, self-interest, drive, competition. We talked about the category called rajas, and the tamas is about attachment, dullness, inertia, procrastination, and all of that thing. But they're existing all the time, and they are used even to classify the day. For example, sunrise, right? It is good for meditation. They say it's from Brahma Muhurta, 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., 9 a.m., right? So it is good for study, reflection, light exercise, and spiritual practices because sattva is high and the rajas is high. That is when you're asked to, oh, now you can go for eating and high focus tasks. These are all followed in the Gurukulas and in places of where they actually follow the Shastric principles. So where the high focus tasks are required, high physical activity is needed, administration, commerce. They even to this day, you do see this is the time chosen for administration, business, and commerce. And evening and night, people relax and they want to rest, grounding. you do see in the morning, you have this nice levels of dopamine and all this neurochemical balance, including your motivation is so high, the rajas is so high during the day. Most of the high focus tasks will get done. And again, by evening, by the time sun is setting, you see all the animals returning back to their places of rest, or birds returning to nests as soon as the sun is going down. And that is when our melatonin also increases in the body. So melatonin automatically released when sun is going down, when lights are off. So that is because it is telling you that you got to sleep. So you got to got to conform to nature. Otherwise, nature will get rid of you. Right? You're not sleeping in the night, and you're working in the night and sleeping during the day. You're what you call that the circadian rhythm, that is going to go for a toss. It's disturbed, and it's almost certain that the body is prone to diseases. Okay. And you see the application to even time. And then actions. What's a sattvic action? Bhagavad Gita is applying to the kinds of action, right? Chandra Mahodaya's point here. The action performed with purity, without any attachment to the results, that is called sattvic action. And the rajasic action, it's performed, and they get the results, and driven by intense desire to achieve it, and they want the credit all the time. Give me the credit, give me the credit. If it is not given, they become very unhappy. And success, profit, fame, they're after that, right? It's not about the very action itself. The rajasic, the difference between sattvic ego and the rajasic ego is that good things have to happen. It doesn't matter who does it. It doesn't matter if I do it or anyone else does it. And good things have to happen. That's a sattvic person. Rajasic person, good things have to happen. It should happen through me only. That is when the problem comes. And it's not a bad thing, but they both achieve results. They both get results. But one who is disturbed is a rajasic person because of the rajasic ego that is driven by intense raga and dvesha, intense desire and the outcome. It could be like, I did this, give me a Nobel Prize. Right? You do. It's possible you get many things done, but at the same time, you expect the world to react in a certain way just to make your ego happy. And tamasic action, action performed without any regard for consequences. You don't know good or bad. All your motivation is simple delusion. And the dvesha is a lot more. I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to get up. It's that inertia, that mental prison. It's heavier, leading to injury or bondage. So that kind of action, a tamasic action. Right. Chandra Mahodaya, you have any point here to make?
I think you covered it. Thank you.
So it's applying to karma. So now, environment and places. So why? So they talked about sattvic space. You move to a serene mountain. Walk around that thing in the morning. How do you feel? If it is clean, organized, in a natural setting, temples, gardens, and a very nicely kept home. You feel good about it. So it is considered a sattvic space, and it's a good vibe place. When people talk about vibrations, good vibration, okay vibration, very bad vibration, bad vibe, good vibe, and all that, they're actually sensing all these things. Rajasic space is a busy, loud, competitive environment. It could be, if you go to a stock market, a railway station, city street, a busy office, and how do you feel? Not at peace, but just it's expecting you to act in a certain way. Okay. It's all about competition. Busy, gotta be busy, busy, busy. The place actually can influence your mind. Tamasic space, dirty, dirty alleys, stagnant, dark, neglected environment, neglected spaces, high criminal crime areas, abandoned buildings, messy room, heavy damp. Just imagine it, and you would feel it. So it's all about the dominance of the gunas in these areas. So you can look at it and then look at the sandarbha and the auchitya, the place, the time where you live, and then you modify your you conform to the surroundings so that you raise your sattva instead of reducing it. So the goal is to always keep increasing the sattva for clarity and the transcendence, gunatita state. And look at in Ayurveda, when they talk about it, what is the level that they want to bring the state to? So the physical body is all by dosha, vata, pitta, kapha, and the gunas are essential for classifying the nature of illnesses, even in Ayurveda, because they've seen that mind and body are integrated; they're not separate. They're constantly working in tandem, right? So sattvic state is to bring the body to that state. They don't treat the body; they actually treat the purusha in Ayurveda. So swasthyam, to return back to the original state, and freedom from mental diseases. Mental health is actually you have good mental health if you're equanimous, seeing things as they are, yathartha jnana, right, and with clarity. The illnesses are understood and managed with peace. So that is sattvic state. And rajasic illness is these are conditions by stress, overexertion, ambition. All of these diabetes and blood pressure and all these things, you see that they are more of lifestyle disorders, not just physical diseases, right? Stress, overexertion, ambition, repressed emotions, irritability, rage, and road rage, everything. So all of these are classified as rajasic illnesses. And tamas is about delusion, attachment, lethargy, high levels of depression, and severe mental fog. And you see a person, a depressed person, whether or not he needs sleep, he will be on bed. He or she will be on bed. So that's a type of tamasic disorder, right? A tamasic state. And then jnana, it is applied to jnana and even to the karta, right? What is a sattvika jnana? It sees it'll have the nitya anitya jnana. What is permanent, what is impermanent, what is perishable, what is imperishable. The one who sees the imperishable spirit or the same consciousness in all diverse beings, that person performs action without any attachment, free from ego and desire for fruit. So that is the person who is most productive. Okay, and the karta is firm in resolve, unmoved by success and failure. Last time we talked about feelings are for fools. This is why. Feelings are considered, and they go up and down, up and down. They are more, they are not, they're less, they are sometimes there, they're not there. So feelings are for fools, conviction is for the courageous, right? Conviction is a sattvic quality. Conviction for what is right. Ramayana and Mahabharata are examples for that thing. To see the heroes displaying these qualities. They're unmoved by success or failures. And even in the entrepreneurial classes these days, you would see that thing. Failure is a stepping stone of success. It's a part of being. It's part of being an entrepreneur. And not to be too attached to successes. Same way, right? And rajasic. They see the reality. This is a very special quality. This is where most people are actually. They see things. It's all about classification. This is different from that. That is different from this. You see that intellectual quality to see differences all the time. It's not about one in the many. It's always seeing the many more in the many, right? It sees reality as fragmented and distinct all the time, bheda bhava, and attached to specific results and forms. They're rupavadis. They want that result in a very certain way. It's performed with great effort. They work hard, and of course with ego, right? It's not sattvic ego, but rajasic ego, driven by intense desires. They're passionate, and the karta or the doer is passionate, bound, greedy. Sometimes, I mean, for Duryodhana, if you can't get it done, it's constantly envious, prone to excitement and griefs. They go through the ups and downs a lot. So that's a rajasic karta. Anybody had a point here? Just heard of it. None. Okay.
Mahodaya, just a quick time check. It's about a little past 8. So
yes, yeah, sure, and we're there. And so this application to jnana, karma, and karta, the tamasic classification is knowledge based on delusion, and of course they also grasping at fragmented or petty concepts, superstitious dogmatism. You can see even the shraddhas and certain faiths of the world, right? Certain religions can also be classified where they stand. And here in the tamasic mode, the action undertaken from delusion, neglecting consequences, and injuries and losses are predominantly seen. And you do know what religion, what kind of society can be classified. It can be very vulgar, using vulgar, obstinate, deceitful mentality, and depressed and constantly procrastinating to do anything that is right. And it is applied to ashramas too. For example, during the brahmacharya mode, high sattva is taught and practiced, focusing on studies, clarity, and simplicity. During the grihastha stage, when you marry, it's more actually high rajas, a lot of activities, duties, responsibilities, raising families, creating wealth, and all of that. Vanaprastha is when you have to balance the rajas with increasing sattva, right? Transition to more and more self-knowledge. And sannyasa is about gunatita, again, highest sattva. At that level, when you're sattvottama, the very highest level of sattva, you do transcend, resting in pure awareness. Anyway, so these are core mechanisms through which the prakriti functions, the mirror is functioning, binding the individual ego or the soul, the jivatma or the purusha, to the material world. In Sankhya, purushas are many, not one. Just want to make it clear. But in pure Sankhya Darshana, there are many purushas and in contact with prakriti. So in this material world, through varying levels of clarity, activity, and inertia. Clarity is sattva, activity is rajas, and inertia is tamas, right? Okay. Now there is another wonderful shastra that I came across on archive.org. There is a shastra called Purvapaksha Shastra, a beautiful work used to in the subject of zoology, where we do see binomial nomenclature, botany, zoology, everything from Aristotle's point of view. That's how we study, right? Especially including Charles Darwin, the evolution, how it happens. It's the evolution of the forms of animals. That is how we study. Here, an author by name Hamsadeva, a Jain author, he actually uses three gunas to classify animals and birds. It is called Mruga Pakshi Shastra. Very beautiful one. But you don't see that being taught. I don't see people mentioning, and I don't know why. But it's wonderful, I thought. And it's not considered or some kind of an authoritative pramana text, but actually it can open up a lot of research, wonderful research material, because it's application to zoology, right? And here the it was probably, it is dated to 12th or around 12th century, I guess. But it does indicate that there were many works prior to that thing, and he sort of this is the only available text in a complete way. So there are Gaja Shastras and many Ashwashastra and all of that, but this seems to be very interesting classification system that he has introduced. He does not rigidly classify animals, but he tries to make categories and then explain the behavior of animals using trigunas. And yeah, it's probably the most voluminous and extensive surviving work on animals and birds. Okay. Very interesting work. And here is some of the examples. He says, okay, you take a domesticated animal and study the habitat and the form. He says you can classify them or explain their behavior through sattva, rajas, tamas. He says, oh, look at cows, goats, and ena. The ena is the black bugs, the Krishna Mruga, what we call it, right? So he says, I see the qualities. They're very shy, gentle nature, and they're easy to take care. It's easy to domesticate, if not the Krishna Mruga, but the others are. They're gentle, they're useful for the yajnas, and their milk is so nutritious, non-aggressive, and so beneficial to us. So they are sattvic animals, you know. And of course, there are many gradations. We'll talk about it later. But he talks about even the vanacharas, the forest and the wild animals. Look at the vyagras, the tigers, the simha, the lion, the wolf, and even monkeys. They are so mobile and they have very high predatory instinct, fast moving all the time. Hunting is all about movements and driven by the passion, the aggression, and anger, and all of that, purely for survival, right? And lion is called the king of the jungle, so rajas high. Raja, you see the relationship. And then Chara. Ka is sky, and one that basically things that move in the sky, birds, right? And they have, for example, you see the Garuda and hawks, owls. They're active at night and always bordering on tamas or association with darkness. So he classified them as rajas, but adhama, rajas adhama, rajo adhama. High vertical mobility, everything is great, and the focus, vision, and all of that's super impressive. But look at that hunting drive, and look at the territorial and those instincts and the movement, that the migratory passion. So they're all rajasic, right? So he classifies them. And then Jalachara, which is purely tamasic, the Matsya. And you look at the turtle. How does it move? Look at the sloth and Jaloka, the leeches, the bloodsuckers, and all of that. There's absolutely no movement, but they all live. And they're stuck in deep water, mud, and they love that thing, those spaces. Extremely slow moving, venomous. They are all associated with earth. Earth is a symbol of tamas too. And yeah, so they're called tamasic, And of course, another thing that I saw, some attempt, this was beautiful actually. You could actually do, 3 levels of sattva, 3 levels of rajas, 3 levels of tamas, where he says the highest is the uttama, madhyama, adhama. So sattva uttama, sattva madhyama, sattva adhama. Similarly, rajo uttama, rajo madhyama, raja adhama. Examples: the graded in the gradation of the trigunas. You look at Sattvottama, and the quality is pure in the tranquility and the high wisdom. Sattvottama, example, a sage, a fully enlightened being. So, who is Sattva Madhyama? A disciplined scientist, maybe a disciplined philosopher. So, and also very famous. That there can be many gurus for that matter. And see, many times the gurus, sometimes there are gurus that are purely, even the rishis are called gurus, and but the classification is slightly somewhat loose. So, guru does not mean always transcending or somewhere above and beyond your reach or anything, but there are many gurus, right? Natya gurus or whatever, right? So, Sattva Madhyama and the Sattva Adhama. Uh, the example is a person who studies texts but doesn't apply them, remaining lethargic to an extent. So that clarity is obscured by that slaughter, slow behavior. It is said that if you study all the Vedas, if you have all the knowledge and you don't share it with anyone, you will be born as a Brahma Rakshasa. So there are certain curses also associated. So therefore, it is said in the Upanishads too. Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramatitavyam. So you have to do the swadhyaya, you have to share it with others. Do not ever deviate from these imperatives.
Subramani
Yeah, Mahodaya. A lot was discussed since I raised my hand. Uh, one area about this food classification. During my Ayurvedic teacher, I mean doctor who was treating me, he used to explain some of these concepts to me, and his take was like the food itself, it doesn't have like tamasek or anything. Like there is no tamasek kushmandam or something like that, right? But those foods will increase certain one of these three qualities in an so if you are say heavily rajasic and prone to get agitated all the time, then you should not eat foods that aggravate your rajas, um, rather than the food itself being
Yeah, that
having its
is.
own.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. See, the thing is always experiencer is associated. It depends on your deha prakriti or your which dosha is predominant, right? If you are a highly tamasic person, it's probably okay to give him a little bit, more kind of coffee and wake him up. Uh, so it depends on the experiencer and the experienced, so that it works like a system. It's a system means what? You have a sattva, rajas, tamas, and you have tridoshas, vata, pitta, kapha. And then when you turn this knob, that knob also has to be turned, right? So it's like a dial-up system. It's not a binary system. It's not zeros or ones. They are systems. So you have to sort of modify the taker and what is taken. So that is probably what he was hinting at. Yes, that is what you do. Meaning, see this as a dial-up system, like a performance tuning system.
Yeah, yeah, and he also mentioned another book that is in line with the Pashupakshi book that you.
Mhm.
So there was this was somewhere in border of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, where I went, and his guru had referenced a book on. He was trained in Hasta Ayurveda, and in one of the lectures he gave, he said there is a text on identifying lakshanas of an elephant. Uh,
Gaja- Yeah.
like it is a science, like how you would know the behavior, or it predicts the behavior as well as beauty, and what kind of a elephant would other elephants want to associate themselves with. Certain kind of elephants, others would not want them to be part of their group, and they will be aggressive or disrespectful. So all those were, but these are all in Tamil, Malayalam. They were not in the, like what you mentioned, like a complete Shastric, like Yoga Sutra level kind of popular?
I mean, when we say Shastra, it actually there is various levels of Shastra, too, right? Many times it's in practice in Rudhi, but not codified as a Shastra. There are lots of Rudhi wisdoms, wisdom that is actually practiced in daily life. Sometimes it becomes Shastra, sometimes it doesn't. But you look at but the insight is coming from these trigunas, and that is how people may do it even without knowing trigunas, but this gives a very systematic knowledge. The insight is a lot more sharper now, right?
Mahodaya, quick question. When you said input, output, and then you have the process, you can apply this at the individual level and also a group level and an organization level. Same thing, right? So that's this organizational change.
From micro to macro, micro system to macro system, it is seen that way.
So each team would have like these three qualities, technically, and depending on the time of frame, like when it is. Okay.
Okay, and so here look at the Rajottama. And I saw that in Purvapaksha Shastra, he classified lion to be a Rajottama. It was very interesting to me. And then the Ashva to be a Rajottama. Right? So why, action is guided by noble goals, ethics, or a warrior or a king when it comes to human beings. And he can be a compassionate leader. He may not have sattva, maybe a little bit, higher compared to others in the rajas category. Raja Madhyama is action driven by ambition only, competition only, and highly egoistic. You would see a lot of people here in this group. A purely self-driven entrepreneur, a highly ambitious politician. Rajo Madhyama is what we see, right? So many times we tend to classify, you see, there is no good and evil kind of classification in any of this in Gunatraya Vibhaga. You see, everything is seen through the lens of Trigunas, where anyone can be elevated to the level of Sattva. So it provides a pathway to. In Raja Adhama, the action is very cruel, right? And greedy, and highly destructive, like a drunken monkey. So this is the most dangerous one, Rajodhama, a terrorist, a ruthless dictator, or a gangster. Highly active, but all bad. So they are considered Rajadhama. And here, there is Tamo Uttama too. For example, if you want restorative rest, the tamas is, for example, when melatonin is high, your tamas is high. So you need a sound dreamless sleep. So it's rooted in stability. And tamo madhyama, it's punctuated by some activity too. Habitual procrastinator, or person who is often depressed or sluggish, tamo madhyama. Really, this whole tamas is somewhat useless to the society. It's not contribution, but it can do. A tamasic person is destructive, can only be destructive to himself and not to others. Whereas a rajasic person can not only be destructive to himself, but is extremely destructive to others. So most of the evil things happen because of the people in the rajas category, not in the sattva, not in the tamas category. The tama adhama is pure ignorance. They just destroy themselves. Extreme laziness, intoxication, and destructive, venomous creatures. Right? So this is look at the kind of applications, how to classify the mind to anything and everything. And of course, so but this is for the next class. But I just wanted to touch upon the lakshanas and how Western philosophy sees word. Right? You see, all of these things are through lakshanas, where you do see, they just simply study the swabhava, or the nature of things, nature of animals, nature of events, and nature of people, and classify. There, the application can be amazing. It has a lot more wider reach compared to narrow, rigid categories. Because if you don't study the nature, your classification is going to be very rigid, and that is what we see in other systems. But this Gunatraya Bhaga, and simply just as an example from Bhagavad Gita itself, and look at the application, look at the universality of this system of classification. So with that thing, I just open up for more Q&A if you have any. So I hope, there's, Sankhya is not just theory, it's application everywhere. Did you see that thing happening? Can you relate to your daily experiences?
Mahodaya, quick feedback. I think the Triguna and then the breakdown to the levels, it's perfect, because I always struggle to see, okay, what is exhibited by somebody, what is not exhibited by somebody. You have to wait for their results or actions or moves before you figure out, what levels they're operating, somebody's operating at.
Yes.
Because your human mind is always trying to calculate and measure what is happening by who. It's like a chess move. So
one thing in neurosciences, you do study that in human beings, so we all are electrical beings, pure scientific point of view, right? Thoughts are vibrations. Thoughts are electrical signals, and sattva, rajas, tamas, they are actually classifications to study the pattern of behaviors. So the pattern of thought processes, they are classified. It's amazing. The applicability is superb, right? I'm just fascinated by that Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, and how Sankhya is so much of application-based philosophy. Oh, yes, Mahodaya, Ashwin Mahodaya. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, also wanted to say that we can this classification, what we call in in our philosophy, it eventually lets us to synthesize. So, so, so in when we do in any study, what we do first, we analyze and then we synthesize. So
Yes.
first things are analyzed into frequency components and then synthesized. First things are analyzed, all picture is colors are synthesized into three colors RGB, and then
Yes.
synthesized in some way to make a new picture. So when we even elements, any nature is classified into 92 elements and then synthesized. But even the elements themselves, they have realized they are not elements, they are the configuration, because
Gracious.
internal it is just electrons, neutrons and protons. But what changed was the configuration. So the
Configuration.
guna had changed. It did not change the electron or proton or neutron or subatomic particles, subnuclear like quarks. They will remain, but the configuration changed. Even we analyzed all the alphabets into consonants, and then we synthesized to make a mantra or something. So when we had in Hindu philosophy, when we analyzed into three gunas, that was like RGB. We eventually goal was to synthesize. When we analyzed into or classified into varnas, the goal was to eventually synthesize. So we should not leave it at that, oh, we analyzed it and left it, oh, there was chatur guna. But no, that was only the analysis part. What was the synthesis part? That was a very the important aspect, which the Purvapaksha does not realize, that every analysis was wanted to eventually synthesize to a better, higher value.
Yes. It is that, it's all about an attempt to look for that one in the many and then make it highly applied. And it's always experiential. Many times the Western philosophy or the Western classification systems is purely conceptual. They look for the cohesion and the rigor in those models, but they may have nothing to do with your experience. That's a problem there, because this will come from the Lakshanas. We'll talk about it more in the next sessions, but the whole point is, look at the universality of these systems of classification. the power of classification. I mean, the whole that cohesion, that the ability to understand the world in which you operate. So that is so impressive. That is Traigunya Mimamsa. So I think Bhagavad Gita is fantastic in that regard. They covered almost everything. Of course, it is used throughout Bhagavad Gita. Any more comments, questions? Please go ahead. Yeah. Yes, Rohit Modi.
I think Anandji is in front of me.
Yeah, thank you, Rohitji. So, Sriniji, very interesting session. In fact, one of the things that we used to do when learning these gunas, we try to classify non-living entities uh, many people like to use examples using automobiles, right? So we would say, okay, so tamas is basically like a diesel engine, or kapha is like a diesel engine truck. It's not good for short trips. It takes a while to get warmed up.
Okay.
But once it hits the highway, it can keep going on for like 12 hours, 20, 24 hours without stopping for a break, right? Whereas the Vata Prakriti type equivalent is your small car, like a Mini Cooper or something even smaller, which is good. Like, hey, I forgot I'm making chai, I forgot ginger. Let's go to the 7-Eleven and get it. And they are good to make trips every now and then. So they don't, their nature is not, and we were mapping it to human nature, like some humans at home. Like if you tell them to do a chore, they like to do everything at once. Like, I will take all the laundry in one trip.
Yeah.
Versus like some people like to fold two clothes, do something, and then after 2 minutes later, fold three more clothes. So that is kind of like
It's like
Vata, Rajas, Prakriti.
you're classifying the actions, the daily actions.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it was like a fun exercise
How it
to.
can be done, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, and at the same time you can use the gradation too. Rajottama, Rajamadhyama, Rajadhama, and those kind of things too. It really gives you that kind of clarity, right? I mean, it's experiential. Clarity, activity, and inertia. Clarity for Sattva, activity for Rajas, and inertia for Tama. And it's there everywhere. Look at what Krishna is talking about. He expanded and started giving examples. And Sankhya itself doesn't give that many examples, but Krishna does that in Bhagavad Gita. And of course, Ayurveda does it from a health perspective. But again, the seeds are there in the Bhagavad Gita itself already.
Yes, especially like analyzing Dhritarashtra's character, which wasn't Rajasic. It was maybe Rajas and maybe Tamas. And Duryodhan was over excess Rajas.
Oh, highly Rajasic. I mean, to the level that he was not a self-made person like Ravana, the great villain, who was self-made. Duryodhana actually never won a war on his own.
Yeah.
But all the time that Irsha, one of the worst villains that you could find.
So even Bhima was kind of susceptible to that occasionally, like when he had to kill Dushasana.
Oh, that one actually,
Right.
this is another classification system. We'll come to that when we have kavyas. It's called Dhira Uddhata, Dhira Uddhata, and Prashanta. There are many types of Nayakas. Bhima comes not in the category of Dhira Udatta, but Dhira Uddhata. Just on a Rajasic high, those kind of things. Yeah.
Thank you, Madhya. Yeah, Dhanya.
Just one quick thing. It's past 8:30. I'm going to stop the recording, G, and then you can continue the discussion after that. Okay?
No problem. Right?
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।